Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. Got the Unfiltered gang back here. It's been a couple weeks since the big recruiting weekend on the 40 and the results that have come of that. I believe 7 commitments. Now, Hunter Modern did decommit, but since then, so I think 7 or maybe 8 now, as we're up to 12, and this class is gaining a lot of momentum. It's a very competitive recruiting season out there. Texas is gaining momentum. A&M's gaining momentum. Florida's recruiting like gangbusters. Georgia's out here still killing it. So we're trying to hang in there and fight some intense battles. So we're going to break down some of the guys we've signed or not signed, but some of the guys we've gotten verbal commitments for. Hopefully that will sign come National Signing Day, and some of our favorite guys, how they fit. We'll start there. We'll actually go into some of the all media teams, all Big 12 media teams that have come out, the preseason team, as well as their projection of Texas to win the Big 12. And then we'll actually finish with some breakout players on the roster, just some guys we want to keep our eye on going to the season. Bashan, how we doing, man?
Man, hanging in there, brother. How's everything going with you?
Doing well, man. I'm excited to talk some ball, man. Chris, what's going on your side, bro?
Oh man, just getting ready. It's you, man.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, as we jump in here, we also want to give a quick thank you to today's video sponsor, video sponsor, Aura. Aura is an all-in-one digital security services platform. We're offering a 14-day free trial. I actually have the QR code up here. But guys, we're talking about, VPN services, 24/7 credit monitoring, a white glove, capabilities of covering all of your devices, families, couples. There's a lot of threats out there, and cybersecurity services is imperative. And there's, in this industry, you want to partner with somebody that has the services and capabilities and the team behind you to make sure that your devices, your credit, your identity is secure. And also, if something happens, having insurance behind you, having the capabilities to have resolution, right? And getting things back in order when those things happen. I know a buddy of mine that was compromised a couple weeks ago with his social security number. If he had a partner like Aura, that would have made that experience a lot different. And having that insurance and the 24/7 white glove support to help him through those things. So you never know until it happens to you, right? And so making sure this is no different than you having car insurance or homeowners insurance. You want to check out Aura 14-day free trial. What are you waiting for? Take advantage of it. Check it out. 14 days to make a decision on it. And then from there, we have some great monthly packages to check out. Also want to give a shout out. I'm rocking my Last Stand hats today. Last Stand Hats family. We just picked up my guy, Jordan Whittington, who is now part of the Last Stand Hats family with more athletes coming aboard. Hit up laststandhats.com/fanatic. Use the Fanatic10 promo code. Get 10% off at checkout. I saw some people taking advantage of. I've been seeing these things come in. I see people taking advantage of the 14-day trial for Aura. I'm really excited about that. I've seen people taking advantage of the Last Stand hat stuff and some of the promo codes coming in there. So we're really excited. There's some more athletes on the way, by the way. More athletes on the way. So, but speaking of athletes, Vashawn, man, coming off that weekend, I know we all have our ears to the streets, man, in terms of feedback from friends and family and all the people in the industry. I've heard some incredible things and some out of that weekend that Texas had where all those 5 stars were on campus. And I think we've started to see the momentum come about. So many great players on board. Who do you want to start with? Where's your head at as you look at some of the guys that have committed to play for the University of Texas?
Well, man, just coming out that weekend, man, it was an awesome weekend because, man, my phone was just ringing like crazy. I'm out with the wife doing shopping and all that type of stuff, going to the grocery store, and then my notifications just kept going off. I'm getting text messages, I'm getting DMs, Guys like, hey man, I'm hearing some things, man. Twitter start going crazy. I'm like, what's going on? So um, I just start with the big fish. We heard about Colin. We hearing some things about him, and he may or may not have given Texas a silent. You know, wink, wink. But anyway, then you started hearing about Kobe Black, and you started hearing about all these other guys, man. And I just say, man, from we don't go on hypotheticals, but we just heard, what we're hearing is Texas has a lot of silent commits. And I hear fans, they say, hey man, well, a silent commits is nothing. And I just tell them like this, before you become a commit, you got to be a silent. So that's usually how it works. So, but man, the last 2 weeks, we see now what this staff is capable of doing, and the reason they're being patient. They could have went out and got a bunch of commits early, but they have picked out some targets, and the targets that they picked out, a lot of them are not super highly ranked. I like that idea because I don't know a lot of people understand when you evaluate players, especially before they play their senior season, um, you get the guys that you like. Because, I mean, a lot of these guys are going to go up in the rankings based on their senior season, or they're going to go down in the rankings. So you don't want to get a guy that's maxed out or topped out with his program. So the guys that they picked, I love them. I'm gonna start off, just going with the running backs to Shaw choice, bro. Get this man a raise, Steve. Come on, Sam, get this man a raise. I mean, the guy, Jared Gibson, was that Christian Clark? I mean, he just continues to pull running backs every year. From my understanding, we're going to take 2 running backs every year, and that's on purpose, guys. I mean, in today's transfer portal, you expect to lose a guy, so you have to continually, keep the stable full. So I like those pickups. It continues the trend of getting good running backs. Most recently, I watched I like that tight end we just took too. He's
Jordan Washington. Let's talk about him.
Yeah.
let's talk about it. He's to me, when I went and looked at the film, Steve, he could stretch the field over the middle, man. I saw him making catches over the safeties over the middle, over linebackers over the middle. Got long arms, man. He played 6A ball in Houston, so he played a lot of good competition, and he can block. He's not the biggest guy, but he can block. So that tells me also he has room to grow. He's not maxed out. Because if we had a guy that's 260 pounds already, it's a possibility he could already be maxed out. But he has a frame to grow some more. I mean, he's going to probably end up being around 250, 240. And if he keeps that athleticism, man, he's going to be a nice get for Texas. I see him.
Yeah, he like you said, he's a seam stretcher. And one thing with Jordan Washington is what I found very interesting in his commitment. Kind of some of the little quiet critique or criticism about, hey, Texas's effectiveness in the Houston region and going after Houston players. Calvin Banks, obviously, and some of the ones we've had wins, but in terms of when people see the way that we've made strides in DFW, they want to see those same type of strides being made in the Houston area. But what I've heard from people that, I'm talking about A&M people. I'm talking about people that, have ties into LSU. They said Jordan Washington is not properly ranked. He is going to shoot up the boards.
Yep.
And it's not, and this is not like what they call, Chris, the Texas bump, right?
Yeah.
Players. They've said, Billy and them are out there. They put it on Twitter. Jordan Washington is not going to end up the 29th ranked tight end in the country when it's all said and done. That's a high upside guy, and he's probably already not appropriately ranked for where his skill set indicates. The other thing I want to address, Fashawn, about tight end, There's been some allegations of Jeff Banks in regards to recruiting that position. Not Jeff Banks as a recruiter, because we know he's a volume recruiter and he's done a great job in various areas of the entire roster of the team. But people saying we're not getting top-ranked tight ends. Well, obviously, we didn't get Deuce on the last cycle. There were some things said about that. I don't think there's an elite tight end in the state, honestly, to that degree. So, like, tight end in general, we have to factor in the position. You don't even get elite tight ends every cycle. So if you can take somebody with some high upside that plays at a premier school in Houston, you do it. And I think Texas that's exactly where they're at. Go ahead, Prashant.
Well, and we can't discount Jeff Banks. We pay Jeff Banks a lot of money. That dude can also develop. When he turned in, he turned what's name into from a defensive end into now he can block, man. Jatavian Sanders. So that wasn't just, that takes some coaching to do. So, and I heard the kid on the interview, he was talking about that, and I thought about, I said, Jeff Banks is a good developer, man. Not only a great special team coach, but he can develop some tight ends. So it's best, in my opinion, to take a kid with a high upside, work them in a program, develop them, get them in year 2 or 3, and then you got a finished product. Then take a kid that's a potentially maxed out kid, get him in a program he don't want to stay, and the next thing you know, I'm not playing, I'm getting in the transfer portal. That's why we saw Iowa State, Iowa State the last 4 years, they've been having a run of tight ends. They would get those guys, those tall, long, athletic guys. They weren't even ranked in Steve, in the 500s. And they would get these guys, and man, they would get them in the program, develop, and next thing you know, they're going in the NFL draft. Because they would do it the right way. So Banks is looking for a body type. He's looking for a certain skill set, and he's working with that. Man, I trust Banks on that, so I'm cool with it. And real quick, let's not worry about recruiting rankings. Winning, the little brag, we go back and forth with Texas A&M and all of that stuff in Oklahoma. That hadn't got Texas, and Texas A&M nothing in the last couple of years. Man, let the coaches find the guys they want and develop them. I'm more concerned now about player fits. If the guy fits the program, get him. Trust your eyes when you're looking for a guy. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, you made on our previous video at that point in time, speaking of allegations on coaches that are necessary. When we say allegations, we're just talking about positive pressure, right? Hey, our roster numbers look a certain way. We want to put some pressure on XYZ coach to make sure that position's looking okay, especially heading the SEC. For you, something you emphasized in our previous video, Chris, was defensive line, interior defensive line, and some of the names there. So I believe Alex January of Duncanville is committed. Where's your head at, man, Chris, in terms of just recruiting and some of the things you're looking at?
Well, I like, obviously January was somebody we're talking about. We need to recruit it was the first time meeting them, and it looked like they did, and they've been doing that. I like the fact that him, like Jordan Washington, they both played in multiple sports. They didn't just, it's so weird. I like the whole, and January is a baseball, football guy. I'm a big fan of the basketball and the football guy too. That's a lot of guys you meet in high school don't end up playing football until 11th grade, and all of a sudden they're really good, and they could have, been something special, even better than what they ended up. A lot of guys end up, being able to make that late, plunge, and your Antonio Gates, your Jimmy Grahams, but not everybody's able to do that. I think Mike Evans maybe started playing basketball a little late too, or playing football a little late too. But I think that translates big time. I think Alex January, the fact that he's just totally football now and he's not playing baseball anymore, I think that's great, especially playing the position he can play. He can actually grow into his size. He can actually grow into his body. and he can actually get strong. And I think the fact that he's an early enrollee, I think that, like, I don't care who we recruit. I don't care if we recruit 5 stars, the ultimate 5 stars. And I don't care how raw January is. I think the fact that that dude is going to be an early enrollee, he's going to get a head start on everybody. He's going to get in that weight room early. And we've seen already it translate with Cole Hudson on what he was able to do over Campbell. And I'm not saying that he's going to be able to come in and just play like 40, 50 plays a game, but if he's able to come in and get in the weight room early, and we keep forgetting he's actually a year early. I mean, he's going to graduate a year. He's going to graduate at 17. He's 16 right now. So, I mean, he's going to be on campus at 17 years old. I mean, way to get a head start. Whenever I was 17, I wasn't even thinking about that like I should have, or 16, like what some of these kids are doing right now.
His body type looks phenomenal, though.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Alex doesn't look 325 in a sloppy sense at all. When you watch number 11 on Duncanville, and he's typically playing right next to Colin Simmons, right, and playing off of each other's hip and some of the stunts and things that Duncanville does at times, it's impressive. And some of the interior pass rush and the speed, the actual speed that Alex January shows on, whether it's hustling from behind to clean up a play that may have spilled, or Colin Simmons goes way up in the pocket, quarterback comes down, and now he's in chase and gets the guy
gets him a sack.
You see that several times on film with Alex January, including the state championship game against North Shore, when old boy was going off at QB, and there was a few plays on their option where Alex January is able to scrape and make a play, going towards the sideline. So you also mentioned multi-sport guys. Parker Livingstone, another one that gave up baseball and was playing a lot of baseball, a lot of football. Parker Livingstone from Lovejoy, commitment as a receiver.
Mm-hmm.
And fans, please, guys, let's it's 2023. It's okay to compare people that are not to white guys to black guys and black guys to white guys. We don't automatically have to compare somebody to Jordan Shipley. Okay. All right. I understand he wears the cowboy hat. He likes country music. I get it. He does not play football like that. He is an outside vertical guy that is going to go up and get the football. He's super very fast. He has good track. He has track times. So this whole, Jordan Shipley running slot guy. Oh, is he a taller Jordan Shipley? He doesn't even play football that way. Now, where the cross sport stuff comes in, to Chris's point, that I do think is relevant is him being an outfielder and ball tracking, right? And finding the football. That's where I do think that he can continue to develop. Now, he's going to have to add some weight, which is probably why he's, not ranked as highly as he probably could finish the cycle. But that's a guy that you speak of development, Chris Jackson. I like what I'm hearing about Chris Jackson behind the scenes, honestly. He seems to be a very genuine guy, a man of his word. He's following up with a lot of kids. And I think that's a guy that Chris Jackson gets his hands on him. When you think about some of the receivers he had with the Jacksonville Jaguars, they kind of have that similar type of body type. They're starting to recruit different types of body types of receivers here with the staff. So that's another guy I'm keeping my eye on. Back to you, Chris. Any other guys on top of mind you want to discuss, Chris?
We've had 6 or 7 in the last week. I mean, you don't want to miss on, Johnson Rubel. I mean, that's a big one. I mean, the thing that I like probably the most about everything is, obviously the regions we're recruiting in now. I mean, you're getting IMG guys, you're getting guys from that I-20 corridor that we talk about all the time, or whether it's the Duncanville, DeSoto, it's just Lancaster, it's, all the way up to Mansfield. I mean, all the way down further south, one thing that me, I'm A17 all the way, baby. But one thing that I've seen more than anything that I haven't seen in years, and probably if not ever at Texas, I mean, just the amount of like 817 type or just Metroplex in general at this time. I remember for like 2 decades, if you look at whenever OU took over the Big 12, man, they just
They
pretty
were
much
killing it.
dominated Dallas,
They
you know?
did.
Yeah.
And I think with us getting like Samaj Burrell, people keep forgetting about him. They're sleeping on him just because he didn't come into he didn't go early. They're just like, oh, I mean, everybody's already, putting LaFau and Hill and those guys did. Those guys are big time players. They went to school early, but don't sleep on that cat, man. A guy like Daniel Cruz from Richland High School. I mean, that dude is just, he looks like a center. He has a presence about him, man. Just seeing him talk, that's a leadership, that cat right there. I mean, big time. It's just like I said, there's a presence about him. That dude's working a part-time job to help support his family, along with trying to, get into school early. I mean, it just reminds you of your local young man of, trying to do well. Not everybody's, handed things. And I'm not saying, recruits are handed things, but, some guys have to, you admire, what makes them, the way they have to sharpen, to get things done. And, that's
very, very commendable of Daniel Cruz. And I will say with regards, and that's a good center to pick up and take for Kyle Flood. Kyle Flood had a really good week this past week with some of the pickups he made. I will say Johnson Rubel is very important because Vashawn made a comment in the previous video about the outline of the secondary being built out. Johnson Rubel has the IMG tie.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let me start back. He's a badass football player.
Yeah.
Number 2, he has the IMG tie. Number 3, he grew up with, I think, was it Corey Gibson he grew up with or Kobe Black?
Yeah.
He knows both.
Gibson, I think they're real good friends. Yeah.
Yeah. They seem
He's
to
from
be
Fort Worth
very
too.
tied in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and then when you see, his recruitment, Colin Simmons is in there, Kobe Black's in there, and these are relationships that were built and developed, and they've had relationships before, but they got to be together, right? And the way the staff did it, having all that time together, and guys that have been able to keep in touch over the summer before they go into their respective seasons is really, really impressive to see. And Johnson Rubel seems to be a connector. That's why his recruitment was so contested. Michigan and TCU were on our ass, right? And to be fair, these recruitments aren't over. Okay, let's also be very fair.
Not at all.
It's not over. He's just declaring right now that he's going to go to the University of Texas. But there's kids in classes every year that are connectors with other kids. It's like if you get this kid, he's a key to boom, 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 right? And so when we look at the targets that are out there, Brandon Baker is another. I want to hit on just a few before we move on to the next thing. But Brandon Baker, who is one of the top tackles, right, and somebody who we're already kind of looking at as our boy Kelvin Banks moves on, who's, succession. And I know there's been debates on the boards on if he's really a left tackle or if he's a right tackle, blah, blah, blah. He's a hell of a football player. That's an automatic pickup. What other y'all pick one guy because we can't talk about everybody right now. We got to move on. But one guy that you got your eye on that's a must-have. Bashan, go ahead.
Man, must have. I tell you what.
That's not Colin Simmons.
Yeah, I mean, basically,
I say we throw him out. That's an obvious. I think that's an obvious, right?
Yeah. Colin's anybody that's in the top 5 of the class.
Gotcha.
Man, we need. I mean, man, we need. Well, is his name McKinley? Dominic McKinley.
Mm-hmm. Go get him.
We need him.
Go get him.
We need him, bro. Yeah, because going into the SEC, brother, the trenches is where you win. And these kids are not going to play in the Big 12. What we got right now, we can win the Big 12. But when you go to that SEC, bigger offensive lines and bigger defensive lines, you got to have some war daddies to go into there. And I think he'll be a perfect fit. Bo Davis, man, we watching. Hey, I love Bo. We all love Bo. Get on the bus, Bo. Get off the bus, Bo. We love him. But man, Bo got to land on some big daddies this time. And plus, we only took one last year. So, but yeah, McKinley, yeah, I would love to get him, man. He would set it off. Because, like I say, we know Colin and we know Zeta. We know all of that. We know that's the number one target. But to me right now, D tackle. Because me personally, looking at that, and we're going to talk about it later on, but looking at that Big 12 list, I think Sweat and Murphy might be gone, guys, after this year. And I'm expecting a big year. That's why I'm saying they might be gone after this year.
The numbers for 2024 are why we're emphasizing this so much, to Vashon's point. And yes, we want to get Jaden Jackson's a big one that's out there. DeAndre Robinson's a big one that's out there. There's big names that are out there in terms of, got to Vashon's point earlier about those developmental takes, those fits, blah, blah, blah. Scrap all that when we talk about Dominic McKinley. Okay, top 25 guy. I don't care if he comes in early or late. That's a guy that's going to be in your rotation. And the moment he gets in, that's a quote unquote war daddy. You got to get. Georgia wins those battles. Alabama's won those battles. We got to get guys like that. Chris, anybody else out there that you're like, hey, that's a must-have for me?
I got two. I have a feeling who yours is, so I'm going to take the other. But I mean, for either one, and I think they actually both could be. We could use both. Mine is going to be TJ Lindsey, and here's my thing. I would love to get into Arkansas and get a player out of Arkansas. I mean, there's so many, like Mac back in the day, whenever things didn't go right in Texas, and it rarely didn't. Like he won a lot, But the thing I love about this staff is that they're going out of state. Like pretty much except for January, every other defensive lineman on the interior that we're looking at is from out of state. And it's thank you. Like, I mean, we're winning Rome, we're going to be in Rome next year, I mean, and the previous staff and so many other staffs probably would have tried to gone in those areas and they would have failed. And then instead of their next person would have been, somebody much lower, or not even, I wouldn't say much lower in the ranking, but just not somebody they wanted. This staff's going in and they're literally coming in and they're like Vashon said earlier on, they're not really going for stars. They're taking their time and evaluating, talent. They're not just going, it's not just a 5-star. Take your time, evaluate the player that you want. I mean, be the first or second team on a player. Don't be like eighth or look at this guy now. Yeah, everybody.
There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys where they're the first take or the first offer. I think it was Andre Cujo last cycle where I think we were the first ones there. Kyle Flood shows up, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, "What's Kyle see?" And then they go back into the film, and boom, 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 all the offers start coming out. So
that's how it usually happens. I mean, because Washington, we just talked about him. He's going to be on everybody's radar now. He's going to go up because now they're like, wait a minute, Texas and A&M and everybody's looking at him. So
they're going to start
and just real quick. Let's not forget Livingstone. One thing, one badge of honor that I will stamp on him. He's hooks trained. That's all I need to know. Hooks trained, margin hooks. Hey man, when he put his stamp on you, he put his stamp on you. And Livingstone's been working with him. Kid, I'm expect some big things out of him. Got a great catch radius and he's fast too. Hey, He's gonna come in
I mean,
polished, man, with a Chris Jackson.
Hey,
sign me up.
so man, what you were
Uh,
talking about compare? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I know we got to move on because we have a
Okay,
lot of stuff to jam in here. I need to
gotcha.
mention my player, Ryan Wingo. Okay. Last time we talked for quite a bit. Some of you guys said in the comments I was talking too much about Micah Hudson, blah, blah, blah. How you alleviate all these problems, you go get Ryan Wingo and you keep it moving. One of the best receivers in the country. This is a really, really heavy receiver class. When you think of Smith going to Ohio State, Texas A&M just landing Cam Coleman, big pickup for A&M. You have Texas,
Huge.
between Micah Hudson and Ryan Wingo and that whole thing. And I'm not here to say they're very, very different types of receivers in my opinion. But Ryan Wingo is a guy physically with his profile and the family that he comes from. Rest in peace, Ryan Mallett. But Ryan Mallett played with Ronnie Wingo at Arkansas, and they were very, very deadly and hooked up for many touchdowns there. That's Ryan Wingo's older brother, and everybody from that family has just been athletic dynamos. That whole family says Ryan's the best of the Wingo family. And it gets me into that Missouri pot. To Chris's point about getting into Arkansas, these receivers that are coming out of Missouri, there's something in the water over there because they've been breaking them out too. Bird's about to go off this year, so if I can get in and get one of those guys, let's get it. Guys, as we transition to the next topic, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Really appreciate all of the support. Go follow Vashawn and Chris on the Unfiltered Facebook group. Tap in over there because we can get into more extended conversations and talks of these sorts. I want to get to the all Big 12 media teams. We'll start off with the actual preseason first team for offense and defense. So I'll bring up my phone here because we had a few players make the team as usual. So from Texas, Xavier Worthy, who I believe was the only person that was unanimous, if I'm not mistaken, that had unanimous media votes. Do with that what you may. I think Kelvin Banks should have been unanimous, but that's just me.
No doubt.
So Xavier Worthy, Jatavian Sanders makes it his first team tight end. Kelvin Banks makes it from the offensive line. And then on defense, we have two players in Byron Murphy on the defensive line and Jalen Ford on the defensive side, who was also projected to be Defensive Player of the Year. I thought he should have won Defensive Player of the Year last year. Hopefully he should have been there. I will start with my initial thoughts here. Number one, Jahdae Barron was snubbed. Justice for Jahdae Barron. Jahdae Barron should have been first team DB. He has an argument. He won Big 12 Defensive Player of the Week last year for the UTEP game. You can make an argument he also could have won that for the TCU game. I don't know what else he's got to do, but let's rock. We about to be first team all everything. Jahdae Barron. That's how I feel. And then my other thoughts are Kansas has several players on this list. Yet they were projected to finish 9th by the media. And this is something that does not pass my smell test, fellas. And here's why. Last year, Tran and I made a video about these lists. Now, ours was more for the coaches ones. And I think we still got to see what the coaches do. But Kansas State last year had the most players preseason for the Big 12 team, yet they were projected to finish 7th in the Big 12. And who won the Big 12 championship? Kansas State. I'm talking about Kansas State. Kansas State had 6 players online. But think about it, between Deuce Vaughn and Felix and all those dudes they had the most people. And they won the conference, but then the media said, or the coaches said they were going to finish 7th. So I'm not saying Kansas is going to win the conference, but if you can't tell me your 9th place team with first team quarterback, the person that's projected to be offensive player of the year, and Jalen Daniels, and all these other guys on the list. But anyway, I've said my piece. Any response or reaction you guys have to the all Big 12 media lists. Please indulge.
Well, I agree 100% with you because that's the first person that I looked at that list and I said, wow, no Jade Barron. And a guy in Unfiltered said, well, they don't really value the position of nickelback. Like, but I'm now that I'm thinking, I'm like nickelback, the Big 12, everybody plays a nickelback pretty much because the offenses that they face. But another person to me, when I looked at that list, man, no disrespect, I don't really know the guy, Kobe Bryant. Kobe, I just realized his name is Kobe Bryant. From Kansas to DB, you can't tell me he was better than Ryan Watts.
Thank you.
That's, man. But, hey, it is what it is. It's motivation. It's just a preseason list. It's just a hype list, guys. I ain't really tripping. But Kansas is all up and down there. So we need to watch Kansas this year. But I know they got a heck of an offense. I don't know how they wasn't all that good on defense. Yeah, defense is horrible. So I had no clue how a guy makes it on there for defense. But
their coach is good.
Yeah, they do have a good coach. They do have a good coach, but I don't know, man. I when I saw that list, bro, I was like, okay. The media see what we've been seeing too. Texas to have 5 guys, they starting to see what we see. What we all know should happen. The talent is there. Again, the talent is at Texas to take the Big 12. I don't have my little Kool-Aid fan, but it's there.
Texas, they got 41 votes for first place, and then Kansas State was second with 14. Like that gives you a really good idea. I mean, last year people were really high on Baylor.
Yeah,
I don't even think Baylor got this many votes. Like people are really, really high on Texas this year. Chris, what'd you see?
All right, man. I feel like Jade. I mean, I'm like Vashawn will tell you, I'm probably one of the biggest Jade Barron fans there is. And I think people forget about the TCU game at times. I mean, it was that a 14-7 game, and that dude scored our only touchdown.
Yes.
Watching that game right there. Yeah. Whenever that guy goes pro, now he's gonna have a great year this year. But whenever that guy goes pro, whenever we're watching the NFL draft and they announce Jade Barron, number 23, Texas taken, and whatever round he's taken in, you're gonna see about 3 or 4 plays from that TCU game right there. The way that dude wrecks a screen. Literally, man, like that dude is a tackling. I mean, he's not a. I mean, for his size, I mean, the kind of tackler he is just amazing. I mean, it's sound, But overall, with the numbers and where Texas players are, you got to expect that. You got to expect that with this league. And honestly, that's fine because at first I was a little upset about it. But then I started thinking about a different perspective, and I was just like, the league is what it is. They don't like Texas. We're about to leave. But then I started thinking about 2 other things too, though. And honestly, I was thinking, and you gotta be honest about things, man. You got to see things from both sides. I thought about the Texas Tech game. I thought about the Oklahoma State game. I thought about these little bitty receivers like Braden Johnson just looking like all Americans. I'm not saying that dude's not a good receiver. That guy's a really good Big 12 receiver. But man, if you wanna and compared to these guys that are on this list, like Vajon said, not trying to throw Kobe under the bus or anything, man. But all I saw Kobe do was run from Banks and Cam and the right tackle Christian Jones, behind Bijan. I didn't see those guys make plays on Quinn at all. And Quinn was trying to throw some picks to you back then, man. So honestly, I think if Texas is going to have the year that we want and the year that we're envisioning, let's look at this list at the end of the year. Let's see who's on it and who's not on it. If Texas wins the Big 12, Jade Barron's going to be in this list. If Texas wins the Big 12, there's going to be another defensive lineman, maybe like a edge on this list, Mr. Sorrells. You see that? You see what they did to you, Mr. Sorrells? Hope these guys use it as motivation. As a fan that's trying to drink Kool-Aid and be positive about this. Oh, T'Vondre Sweat, exactly. Yeah. But think about T'Vondre Sweat. I think he looked great against Alabama. But then there's just certain times during the season. Yeah, I mean, he's taking up double teams, but there's just certain times in the season it's just like,
I
I mean,
think
where you
too.
at, man? You know?
I think too.
So,
Tavondre also may have been hurt by lack of snaps because we had such a deep rotation,
right.
and I think that's kind of may have what happened in a different sense to Jade Barron because Jalen Gilbo played a lot last year, also at the nickel, and there were times where I mean there was a couple maybe in one or two whole games. I still haven't done my deep rewatch of last season yet, but I think there may have been one or two games where Jalen Gilbo played, if not 50% of the snaps or something like that. So snap allocation matters. Like if Tavondre Sweat has the diet that Colburn had last year with maybe a little bit more, he should be on the list now. Like we need you to play a little bit more snaps, big fella. And that kind of hurts guys in production. Ryan Watts is interesting that you bring up because he actually played the most snaps of anybody on the defense.
Yeah.
But he has to, I think with him, they look at numbers and he had one pick last year and didn't have the most PBUs. So it's kind of like, hey, technique. I mean, we see the value of what he brought. I mean, it's not like people are out here cooking him. So we, and I've challenged this. This is something you guys go check out that are watching my 3 underrated keys to the season. I called out the DB room. I need y'all to produce turnovers. 10 interceptions on the season is not good enough, especially when 4 of them came from my linebacker. Okay. So we got to get our hands on the football. We've got to be a little bit more instinctive. We've got to, the same things we saw that Chris pointed out in terms of Jade Barron attacking screens and whatnot, forcing fumbles behind the line of scrimmage, plays behind the line of scrimmage, taking chances a little bit more. I don't want to see people going on 14, 15 play drives anymore, dinking and dunking us to death. That's annoying as well, right?
Oh, yeah.
Paper
got to get off the field.
Yeah. So that's my challenge to the team. Any other parting thoughts before we move on to breakout players on the media list, fellas?
I mean, just going back what you guys said, man, and I think about it, Simp, Steve, I don't remember the last time. When was the last time the Big 12 had picked us to win the Big 12? Man, it's been a pretty long time. I can't remember.
Did
at least been over 12 years.
I'm doing this off the top of my head, and I could be
2009. That's got to be.
You said 2009?
That's what I'm thinking.
Win the Big 12 Sam Ellinger's junior year?
You talking about after the Sugar Bowl?
After the Sugar Bowl?
I think we was pick number 2. I think.
Oh, OU.
Yeah, I think it was still OU.
We was up there though. We and I think we received some votes too. Okay. Even Phil Steele was on. But you know what happened?
That's a good point. What was the last time Texas? Answer in the comments if you guys know. Let's make the video interactive. When's the last time Texas was picked by the media, not coaches, coaches, by the media to win the Big 12 as they were this year? Fellas, want to move on to our final topic, our breakout players. And these are people that, you don't hear a whole lot of scuttlebutt about them. May or may not be a starter, right? They may be in a position battle, but people that we think if we're going to, I love what Chris said earlier. If we're going to win the Big 12, Jade Barron's got to be first team all Big 12, right? Like, so certain things, if we're going to win the Big 12, we've got to see XYZ from this player. So want to get you guys' surprise or breakout players, however you want to phrase it. Vashawn, go ahead, man.
All right. So starting off, if this happens this way. So reading up, man, I see that Cole Hudson is in a position battle with Jake Majors. Now, hey, man, nothing against Jake Majors. I was just going by last year, and I hadn't did a deep rewatch either. But we kind of struggled up the middle a little bit. But that move, if that happens that way, it allow a DJ Campbell to get on the field. And we got a glimpse of him against Baylor, what he can do. Now, I know he struggled a little bit in his pass defense, but he was a heck of a run blocker. But then I was reading some reports about a week ago. They said that he has worked on that and he's looking pretty good. I know he was hurt during the spring, but man, I'm just saying this way. If we can get him on the field some kind of way, and his pass pro was pretty, and his pass pro was good. I think, man, that offensive line is going to take off, and I'm talking about him and Cole Hudson together. So to me,
Gotcha.
personally, I think that'll be my breakout guy because if the trenches,
Gotcha.
if everything is working in the trenches, it's going to make the running backs position better. It's going to make Quinn's position better. It's going to make A.D. Mitchell. It's going to make all the wide receivers position better. That, to me, is the engine and the key of the team. We get that right, it's on and popping. And then all that hype we receiving is going to come to fruition.
And it's really interesting that you go there on the offensive line. Again, that's something I touched on. That was actually my number one point in my underrated video. And one thing I pointed out was we're returning all 5 starters from last year's group, and not just all 5 starters, but a group of guys that started every game, every regular season game. Now we know, injury after the Baylor game, blah, blah, blah. However, I think it really speaks to where we are as a program, that people are fighting for their jobs on a group that's coming all the way back. That's a good problem for Texas, right? We want, and I want to address a comment that was made. Somebody said, hey, we're over here nitpicking the interior offensive line and guys need to grow and blah, blah, blah. No, it's iron sharpens iron. And if you want to win the Big 12, folks, you need to nitpick. If you want to win the Big 12 and compete and recruit at the levels of the teams that they're talking about, we got 41 freaking votes here. You guys are hitting me up in the comments saying we're nitpicking the offensive line. No, it needs to be nitpicked when you can't convert on 3rd and 2 and your short yardage is trash. Okay. Yeah. Yes, we need to have a conversation about it. Okay. I'm not saying it's a good thing that they're all back. I know communication is going to be good. I know chemistry is there. I know they're all being developed, but there's nothing wrong with people pushing each other for spots. The first time we ever saw Quinn Ewers snap on anybody was DJ Campbell. It wasn't because his technique was bad in pass pro, it's because he didn't know the calls.
That's right.
And he got in there, and Baylor immediately ran a stunt at him, and he didn't know what to do. And Christian Jones yelled at him. So we had 2 people that are normally typically reserved go off on somebody, right?
Yeah.
And DJ Campbell, to his credit, got physical, right?
Yep.
And so that's all good to me, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
That's what we need, man.
Yeah.
That's what we need, brother.
Jump in, Chris.
Man, I was flip-flopping between 2 players, and I think I'm going to flip-flop on this. I think I'm allowed on this. I'm going to do this. First off, I like what Vashawn said with Campbell getting on the field and what it does for Hudson. In a couple of videos, before, we talked about just the need to fortify everything up the middle, and I think that's huge. I think if Hudson's that guy, I think that makes it even better. I think that dude's a big guy. He's not the best against the pass. He's obviously a great run blocker. I think center would be great. If he doesn't win that spot, you still have him. I think they're going to play them a lot. If Majors would win that spot, that means Majors got tested. And that's mean that iron was sharpening the iron. It's just basically competition to make you better, to make you push a little harder than you would normally push. That's what we want. I mean, we're going into a league where everybody's doing that. You don't have. I mean, I'm not going to call any teams out like that, but I mean, I haven't seen like Vanderbilt's too deep. But I mean, it's just like in the Big 12. I mean, there's some great defenses in the Big 12, but man, in the SEC, there like everybody's got a big nose, got a big nose tackle. I mean, everybody's got big defensive linemen. Everybody's got grown men on that defensive line. So, I mean, if whoever wins that, in my opinion, and honestly, me having 2 players on this, my second one, honestly, though, is, man, I think A.D. Mitchell. I think Georgia's offense was so into the tight end. You had a defensive-minded coach. It looked like Kirby Smart kind of pulled a Nick Saban in the way he wanted the offense. Like, if you look at what Georgia's doing now on offense, and I'm not knocking Georgia. I'm not trying to have Georgia's people in my DMs or anything. But, man, it just looks like – and Brock Bowers is a heck of a tight end. But if Brock Bowers was at Texas, I mean, the receivers are still going to get the ball. The receivers are still going to – I mean, Bowers is going to – he'd still be a that, he'd win the Mackey Award still, but the receivers are still going to get the ball. A.D. Mitchell he wanted to play for a coach, and that's not a defensive minded coach. I think this dude is 6'3", 210. He's ready. Like, he's going to be that guy on offense for us that if he stays healthy, I mean, it's just, I don't know who in the Big 12 is going to be able to cover him. Like, I mean, I don't know who in the SEC was going to be able to cover a healthy A.D. Mitchell. I'm not going to compare our receiving core to LSU's in 2019. I don't. Or
Don't do that.
When everybody's healthy, and if you look at what those guys were doing up until that year, and what our guys have done up until that year, if everybody stays healthy, I mean, we could have our own. We can create our own legacy. We don't have to worry about comparing ourselves with them.
No,
but
I think I think our group has the potential to be really, really good. I think that's why we're going to see a lot more 11 personnel this season, and on top of the growth of the quarterback, there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? The way our team is built, we're already strong pass pro wise. We're already a top 20, top 25 school pass protection wise, just in terms of our grades. We're just trying to get there in the run blocking. To your point about A.D. Mitchell, you kind of hit on something that I have a theory about Georgia and Kirby Smart. I don't even think it was their offensive scheme at all, because obviously Monken is now with the Baltimore Ravens, and I think we all kind of we have a good respect, all the three of us, for Todd Monken. I think it was more of, I'm not running a can of whoop-ass offense until I need to. That's why A.D. Mitchell's stats are all in the playoffs. Like, if you think about like how aggressive Georgia played offensively, if you have the defense that they had, Kirby's like, I don't need to screw the game up. I just need to get out of here with no turnovers. If we punt, we punt. I don't really care, because my defense is going to kill the other team anyway. I only need the offense when we play Tennessee. That's when the offense. All of a sudden, Georgia's running plays. Lad McConkey's going off. A.D. Mitchell's going off. Bowers is going off. But I'm not running none of these plays against Kentucky or whoever, because they're not going to be able to score on my defense. And I think that's how he rolls. And that's
a young Saban. That's a young Saban. But I'm going to tell you what, once he gets more, I don't know, he's going to lose games in ways where he's going to be like, I want that type of offense. And I just hope, I don't want Georgia to keep going through what they're going through off the field. But, man, I just don't want him to be there whenever they figure it out, whenever we figure out what Nick did, because they got a lot of talent in that state.
And I want to just add on to A.D. Mitchell, Longhorn Nation, what A.D. Mitchell is going to do for Worthy is going to be, man, it's going to allow Worthy to be one-on-one. You can't double Worthy now. You can't put a safety over the top. Now, we know Worthy got to catch the ball, and we know that. But the man, Worthy's going to have a bunch of one-on-one opportunities, and we know he can fly. And it slides Whittington over to his more natural position. Instead of being the number 2 receiver, Whittington can be the third option. Yeah, we know Whittington, man, he can work those seams, he can work those zones, and he's a heck of a blocker. Whittington will lay you out blocking. So, bro, A.D. Mitchell coming over, not only just his catching ability, he opens up the offense for the other 2 wide receivers. And we ain't even talking about Nayor. He's just in the back. So we don't let him heal up. Let him heal up. We don't have to rush him back. Hey, bro, this is a nasty, nasty wide receiver group. And love Casey Kane. Just quit dancing on TikTok now.
Yeah.
No, Casey Kane is good, man.
Cut
Casey
that
gets
out,
open, man. Yeah.
I'm going to say this right now, because Casey Kane's going to confuse some people next year, because he changed his number, and he's wearing number 8 now instead of 88.
Okay. What?
He's wearing
so
number
where's
8.
Worthy?
Oh, he's Worthy's number 1.
Still? Okay,
Worthy's 1.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah. Worthy made the switch to number 1, I believe, in the bowl game.
That's right, in the bowl game. Yeah.
Yeah. So Casey Kane's gonna catch a pass, and I guarantee you half the Longhorn Twitter it'll be like, who's number 8? Like all the memories they've had of him wearing 88 and getting frustrated seeing it. I'm telling
Yeah.
you, I'm telling you, at least he ended the season on a high note.
Yeah.
Okay. For all
Yeah.
the frustration that was there,
He did.
ended the
He sure
season with a
did.
100-yard game in
Yeah.
the bowl game. So, we'll see. We'll see. I want to real quickly as we talk. I want to mention my guy real quick. I'm going to give some love to the defense. I think Maurice Blackwell. I've called him Game Speed on this channel, and that's a guy who will be playing. I think a lot of all the candidates to play next to Jalen Ford and at least our base package, if you will. Now we'll have other packages. We'll have more backers on the field depending on situation. But in terms of our base package, between him, David Benda, Jet Bush, Ant Hill, guys like that, even Leona Leifau, I think that Blackwell to me reminds me of the 4.25 Gary Patterson TCU linebackers that got spun
Yes.
down, and you gave them like 3 years to kind of bake in the oven, and then all of a sudden the guy's all conference. All I'm saying with Blackwell is that whenever he's on the field, he's going to be more than just a special teams presence. He's going to be a guy where we're just going to see really, really good football. Kind of like a throwback to like what we got out of Gary Johnson that year playing off of Malik Jefferson when Malik Jefferson won Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year or was co-defensive player of the year. But Gary played like really, really good ball next to him and was just really, really solid. And you guys mentioned the defensive tackles earlier. You talked about the jump that Murph is going to make this year. Obviously, he already got the vote, so the people are expecting that from Big Murph and Sweat. However, with all that attention that Ford, kind of that triangle in the middle, there's got to be a guy to play off of him to capitalize on the lack of attention. And if they're using, let's say on third down, Ant Hill's just going to be Micah Parsons, go get the quarterback mode. That guy, I think Blackwell can be the piece of stability next to Jalen Ford to help us out and even being able to carry a tight end or so down the field. So that's going to be my surprise player. Chris, Vashawn, thank you guys so much for jumping on the show with me again. And I think Longhorn Nation of FP is enjoying you guys, as I'm seeing in the comments, and been requesting these discussions. So appreciate you guys, and fans out there watching. Help us grow this platform. Like, share, subscribe. Thank you to our video sponsors, Aura. I'll throw the QR code over here one more time. 14-day free trial. Check out aura.com/fanatic, aura.com/fanatic, or hit that QR code. All-in-one device security across the board. Bevy of services. Take advantage. It's just like car insurance. It's just like, life insurance, homeowners insurance. You got to have that to protect your identity, cybersecurity, credit, whole bit. And Last Stand Hats family. We just welcomed on Jordan Whittington, Chris, Vashawn over at Unfiltered. Thank you both, brothers, for coming on the show. Really, really appreciate it. Guys, remember, horns always up.